Pino Pascali is the largest retrospective that there's ever been of this amazing artist who showed his work between about 1964 and 1968 when he died after a motorcycle crash.
Fate portare giù.
There is no Pascali style, but there's lots of characteristics, and I have been attracted to the different characteristics of his work. Sometimes it's cheeky, sometimes it's playful, sometimes it's graceful, sometimes it's complex and confusing.
E come ho conosciuto Pino Pascali? Tanto ho 27 anni e lui 31. Vado nel suo studio e lui si è messo al posto dell'onda di questo mare bianco che c'era al centro dello studio. Già lì capisco che lui è un performer nato.
La Fondazione Prada in questi quasi 30 anni di storia ha lavorato sulla storia di alcuni artisti italiani come Enrico Castellani, Giulio Paolini, Giannis Cunellis. In questa linea di studio Pascali era per noi perfetto.
The exhibition is a huge retrospective, but instead of being organized in a conventional way, it's actually a show in 4 parts. The first part is about his solo exhibitions. The second part is about his approach to photography. The third part is about his contributions to group exhibitions and about the community of artists that he was part of. And then the fourth part is about the materials that he used, how they were produced, advertised, who else used them, and what has happened to them today. And he was really one of the first artists to take the idea of a gallery show very seriously. He wanted to create as many opportunities to make gallery shows as he could, and he wanted to change his ideas about sculpture between exhibitions, so you never knew from one show to the next what to expect. He also wanted to create imaginative installations that were not just a collection of things from the studio, but there were complete environments that would spark off your thoughts in different ways.
E io venivo dall'incontro con le armi e sono andato nel suo studio quando c'era il mare e gli animali bianchi ed era un'altra cosa, sembrava un altro artista, ma in realtà la potenza di immagine era quella, era intatta.
Palma Bucarelli chiamava affettuosamente Pascali detto fatto, cioè un artista che aggrediva l'idea che aveva in mente di fare una mostra, produceva una serie di lavori e poi passava ad altro.
Dissi, ma Pino, ma com'è che tu cambi tecnica così? E lui mi disse, sai, ogni volta che finisco una serie di lavori, sono come dei cadaveri per me.
But if not, don't worry. Another part of the exhibition looks at Pascali's relationship to photography and to photographers. He was unique in Italy in his relationship to photography. He didn't just use photography to document his works and his exhibitions, but he used it in a more playful way. He would bring photographers to his studio and they would photograph him playing with his sculptures in really unusual situations.
Lui faceva parte della sua opera. Infatti mi sono chiesto quando è morto se avrebbe nuociuto alle opere la mancanza di lui. Tant'è vero che lui si è rappresentato attraverso le foto, gli scatti, insieme con l'opera.
The artistic scene in Rome was very rich, so I think he was drawing from all these friendships and other artists in what he made. Usually retrospectives just concentrate on the work of the artist, but we wanted to pay attention to what he showed in group exhibitions and who he showed with. So we have one huge space, and in that room we have 4 works by Pascali that were given to group shows. And they are shown next to works by friends of his like Eliseo Mattiacci and Yannis Kounelis and Alighiero Boetti, and then other artists that he knew well or he knew a bit like Luciano Fabbro, Michelangelo Pistoletto, Mario Cerulli, Gianni Piacentino and Piero Gilardi.
Il rapporto di Pino Pascali con i materiali è il rapporto del scenografo che prende tutto quello che ha d'attorno, sia ad uso artistico, diciamo, sia tratto dalla vita di tutti i giorni.
Pascali used an extraordinary range of materials in his sculpture. Some were traditional artist materials like canvas. Others were natural materials that artists of his generation were beginning to use, like earth and hay. But Pascali was also interested in contemporary materials from industry.
Per lui non sono un fine, sono un mezzo, cioè proprio un medium, quello che noi chiamiamo medium, per potersi esprimere. Proprio per questo motivo lui ne usa tantissimi. Servono a declinare in una maniera diversa il proprio pensiero, la propria idea, anche l'idea di gioco.
This exhibition is a very extensive show of Pascali's work. It probably has 3/4 of his most important sculptures. And there will never be a show that brings this amount of work together again, because the work is fragile and it's in places across the world. But we don't try and tell just one story about Pascali. Even though he only worked for 4 or 5 years, he's so complex that there are different angles onto his practice. And so what we've tried to do is open up different ways of thinking about his work rather than just produce one narrative. Pascali died very young, but is also one of many cultural figures from this moment who died very young. And we don't know what impact they would have had if they'd continued making work into their 50s and 60s and 70s. But Pascali's work certainly feels extremely fresh and contemporary.
Io vedo l'entusiasmo di scoprire un linguaggio artistico incredibilmente diretto, eppure mai banale, allude sempre a diversi livelli possibili di lettura, racconta un mondo di quegli anni, ma racconta anche, forse in nessun momento e tutti. Sono lavori che per me rimangono senza tempo.